Are low interest rates impacting on your investment returns? It's time to rethink. Rethink Investing creates wealth for clients through the strategic purchase of positively geared, high cash flow commercial property. Industrial properties, retail assets, or office spaces can be a smart investment option that produces significant and long-term return on investment. Rethink your investment options and look to commercial property. Learn more at rethinkinvesting.com.au. Rethink Investing, Australia's #1 commercial buyers agency.
Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Okay, everyone, how you going? Thanks for joining us on the podcast today as we sort of navigate Australia, looking at property investors far and wide in this great brown land. It's pretty green around this neck of the woods, Sydney, and heading out to the mountains and stuff. Last time I was in a plane, it was a lot drier, but anyway. But property investors right across this nation, and we're going to go north and we're going to go west today out to a little town called Gulargambone. And I've had to look on Google Map to make sure I know exactly where this is. But guess what? There's property investors out there as well. Joining me in the studio is Brett Ryan. Now, Brett, you're a farmer. Is it a fair job description for you, Brett?
Yeah, mate, farmer, what I call my second occupation. I've been a school teacher here at Gulargambone for 30 years.
Okay.
PE teacher, yes. And then, we've always had a family farm. This is where I grew up. Pretty boring existence. 4 years at uni, came back here. But it's a great little community, great school. It's actually a central school, which means it goes from kindergarten right through to year 12. So, it creates a great atmosphere, bigger kids looking after the smaller ones and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I'm still a full-time teacher and sort of run the farm, as well. Yeah,
wow. So full-time, like school teacher first, farmer second, but I guess everyone's got a bit of land out that way, so everyone's probably a farmer in some way.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah, it's maybe, look, I thank my mother every day because all I ever wanted to do was be a farmer. And she said, listen, son, you're not going through the struggles that Dad and I did, paying off a farm at interest rates of 20%, back in the late 70s. So that's all I ever want to do is be a farmer. But then she said, you can go and do something at uni and then you can come back to the land, after you get something behind us. There's a lot of farmers do that nowadays. They've got spray rigs and go contract, harvesting, all that sort of stuff, contract spraying. Yeah, so I did the teaching and came back and actually absolutely loved it and still love it to this day. So I'm very fortunate. I've got two things that I love. That's
pretty cool. But also a property investor, so that's a third thing.
Yeah. Oh, mate, look, property investor is probably a bit flattering. I've got a few properties, but I've had a fair bit of luck along the way. It's not something I've really, I've never tried to really build a massive portfolio or anything like that. I just, saw a few opportunities at the time and got in and, got a bit lucky. But, it's a good variety, I suppose you'd say, in my portfolio. But, yeah, it's just the way it's turned out. I certainly wouldn't consider myself a, exemplary case or anything like that.
As a third rung on the ladder of, mechanisms to create a few bucks in your back pocket, teaching is a commendable profession. And I've said it many, many times, I think our teachers aren't paid enough money. I think that really needs to be looked at, particularly as I've gone through COVID. I'll ask you about that. How you probably don't have COVID out in Gulargambone.
Oh, yeah, mate. Unfortunately, the New South Wales government blanketed us all in, under the one thing. So, yeah, we follow the rules just like all New South Wales government schools did and, didn't have kids here for a while, which, to be honest with you, and any teacher will tell you this, was a hell of a lot more work than when you had kids at school because you had to provide for the kids that stayed at home as well as the kids that turned up. So, especially for me being a practical teacher, like I teach PE and woodwork, two of the best subjects you could ever teach when kids are at school.
It was two of my favourite at school.
Oh, yeah, mate, and everyone else's. Mate, everyone else's, their worst kids are my best kids, so, but, yeah, it was tough during COVID, mate. It really was, because, like I said, for me, it was like exam week every week because, I don't do a lot of theory, I'll be honest with you. Especially our kids are really hands-on kids. And I had to, come up with some stuff to send home. And we only just started Zooming sort of in the last week. And, yeah, I'm not real flash on the technology, I've got to tell you. Like, I'm a 67 drop, so, I was brought up with faxes and phone calls and not the emails and such. Still haven't got a Facebook account or anything like that. So,
but you don't need it, you're in the big wide world. Just give me a sense, Brett, Gulargambone, my geography,
Yep.
I think I got it right. So it's northwest.
Yep.
From Sydney, but how far north and how far west? Give us somewhere
Well,
that
mate,
most of our listeners will know.
well, I'll tell you, right, very easily. I never say, when people say where you're from, I go 100 kilometres north of Dubbo, and that'll give you, see, Dubbo's virtually more west than north of Sydney, about 400 k's, on the, you go Lithgow, Bathurst, Orange, Wellington, Dubbo. And then if you go straight west from there and then you head north 100 k's, you'll hit Gulargambone. You'll hit Gilgandra first and then Gulargambone. And then if you keep going further north, next you'll hit Canamble and then a place called Lightning Ridge, which I'm sure, a lot of people know about because of the opal mining and stuff up there.
Mm.
Yeah,
what's it like out there at the moment? How's the land? What's it mainly? Is it cattle farming up that way?
Where I am, in the Gulargambone district, it's everything. It's got an annual rainfall of about 22 inches. So it's, doesn't sound like much by Sydney standards, but by farming standards across Australia, as you know, we're a very dry continent, but it's, what's called a safe area. So you're expected to, get crops most years. So to answer your question, it's everything, mate. There's a lot of cropping, sheep and cattle, name it. The country's good enough where you can basically do anything on it. No, and just 100 k's further west of us is a place called Warren, and that's a huge cotton growing area.
Wow.
Yeah, so, it's a lot, but it looks fantastic here at the moment. If we'd have done this 8 months ago in January or February, mate, it was most of New South Wales, a lot of Australia, 3 years of the worst drought you could ever imagine, and we've come out of that. Honestly, Phil, at the start of February, there wasn't a green blade of grass anywhere, and now it's just an oasis. We've just had an amazing turnaround of season. We've had more rain this year than we've had in the last 2 years combined. So, and we're only, obviously 9 months in. So at the moment, it looks a picture. Beautiful crops around, cattle markets, highest it's ever been. And the sheep market's down at the moment. That's only because because of COVID, and they've had to close a couple of abattoirs. So, but look, if you ask, there wouldn't be a farmer around at the moment that's not on top of the world.
Yeah, and I've said on Smart Property Investment before, and we'll get out there and visit some of these regional towns. So Gulargambone will definitely be on our
mate,
on our radar. You got a good pub there and a Chinese restaurant and all the usual stuff.
Yeah, got a pub, mate. Got a Chinese restaurant Friday and Saturday nights at the Bowling Club.
Mate, it sounds like anywhere Australia, but it's what makes such a great nation living. Now, we'll get talking about property in a moment. I imagine a lot of our listeners going, "What's going on?" But woodwork teacher, mate.
Yeah,
I love woodwork at school. I was one of those. Well, what do you like? I'm thinking back year 7 and year 8, you made a pencil case and a bread box and a what do you call it? A spice rack with a little
spice rack, mate. The old spice rack.
You're still making them?
Oh yeah. Spice rack with a twist, mate. I still make a spice rack, and that's not a G up, mate. That's dead set. I make a spice rack, pencil holder. Start off with the easy stuff, the old spice rack. But nowadays, mate. Remember, you used to always just get a template, didn't you? Everyone would make the same one. Nowadays, they try and throw a bit more design aspect into it.
Creativity, flair. Yes. Everyone's an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't get me started. Yes, that's right, mate. The creativity, you've got to design your own, and
you've got to express some feelings and emotions into it, and everything's got to wire. Man, I remember when they let you get your hands on the lathe.
Oh,
I think it's brilliant. Woodworking I find it really cathartic. It's
mate. A great thing to do.
And sort of, we're talking about property investment. And a lot of that still shifts into property investment today. I really do enjoy doing renovations on property because it allows you to actually use your hands, right?
I'm the same, mate. Yeah, exactly right. And that's, my first place I ever bought. Like, I bought it here in Gulargambone, and it was just an old Federation place that just needed a bit of TLC, and I just absolutely love it. Still going. And I bought it in 2002, and I still haven't finished. But as I said, the joys of, working 5 days in the farm as well. But, there's nothing like, it's just that finished product, isn't it? The before and after. That's what's, you can, you just take a step back and think, I did that. It's pretty damn good, isn't it?
Well, something very satisfying about it. And what a lot of people, they're a bit sort of get scared of it when they become property investors. We'll have a chat about that. We're going to go to a break beforehand, Brett. Back in a moment.
Whether you're an avid property investor or about to buy your first property, why do it alone when you could partner with Australia's best buyer's agent, Director of Pure Property Investment, Property Investment Professionals of Australia board member and REB Buyer's Agent of the Year, Paul Glossop, can take your portfolio to the next level. Get in touch today to discuss your investment goals. Get one-on-one insight from Paul Glossop, and for the first 100 people, this service is completely free. Head to purepropertyinvestment.com today to schedule your consult with Paul Glossop directly.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show, with Brett Ryan, teacher, farmer, and also property investor. In that order, I think we've worked out. And So we're talking about woodwork before the break. But would have you become a trade, or how did you learn to do that? Did you learn that at uni with the woodwork?
Yeah, mate, that's a really good question. Actually, I was because this is a central school, goes from kindergarten right to year 12. I was actually a primary teacher, infants primary teacher, and I was only 3-year trained. At that stage, back in the late 80s, you only had to be 3-year trained to be a teacher, not like now. But anyway, when I was teaching for a couple of years, I soon discovered that the 4-year teachers were getting more money than I was. So I did my 4th year, my Bachelor of Education. So I had a diploma in teaching. I went and did a Bachelor of Education in Physical Education, see? And that's how I became a PE teacher. But going back to the woodwork thing, it was just pure luck because, you know, a lot of rural schools, as anyone will tell you, they're a lot of rural towns for that matter, for one reason or another, and most of it's because of, you know, bigger spray rigs, bigger tractors. You know, there's just not the jobs on farms anymore. When I was a kid and going to school, every farm you'd pull up at, there was 3 working families on there because all they had was, you know, a small tractor. And if you wanted to cultivate a paddock, you cultivated, you know, with pulling a 9, 12-foot plough. So in other words, people spent half their lives on machinery, small machinery. But then, of course, came Roundup and, you know, big spray rigs and lots of stuff. So it's replaced a lot of jobs. But going back to what I was saying, the school, you know, just got smaller, as a lot of towns did, because there was just not the jobs around. So in 1999, the woodwork teacher that was here, lovely bloke he was too, but he just decided he wanted a career change. And because we didn't have the numbers to replace him, you know, with a full-time woodwork teacher, the head teacher at the time came up to me and said, "Oh, look, you're teaching PE. How would you like to take up the woodwork?" Well, and I said, "Mate, as a Pope Catholic." And that's how it came about. And all I did, I just, you know, because he knew I had I was doing the renovation, all that sort of stuff, and he knew I was pretty handy with my hands. And then, you know, I gradually went and did a bit of training, you know, on the job training as I went. And, got accredited in woodwork and construction, which is a vet subject, like a vocational subject for year 11, 12 kids there. So pure luck, Phil, pure luck.
Well, you know, you got to be reactive and responsive to luck when it arrives in front of you.
Well, what do you reckon you'd have said, Phil, if he said, "Do you want to teach woodwork?" You'd have went, "No, I'll teach maths instead."
Well, I loved it. I love woodwork and metalwork. I thought it was brilliant. And,
it was, mate. Absolutely.
I say this all the time. I'm a frustrated builder. If I had my time again, I would have chosen construction or building as a career.
Look, I know exactly where you're coming from. I often think about that, you know, would I have done a trade and all this sort of stuff. But, I just only ever wanted to be a farmer. But, and I thought, terrible thing to say, but I got into the teaching because I thought, well, I can leave at 3 o'clock, you know, and then be on the farm and do a few hours out there. But as it turned out, I absolutely love it and still love it.
No, that's good. So property investing, can you give me some sense, Brett, about like sort of size of your portfolio? How many properties in your portfolio now?
Yeah, sure, mate. I'll give them to you in order if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, so what happened, as I said to you, the first one I bought was at Federation Place in Gulargambone, okay, and that was 2002. So we built our own place in Gulargambone in 1996. Just my wife's grandfather had a 40-acre paddock there, and I was from a farm. Obviously, she was in town. So we compromised. The old fellow wouldn't sell us the 40 acres, but he told me I could take 5 acres off the corner, which is what we did. And, built our own place there. That was in 96. And then 100 grand, by the way, back then, which was, 30 square home, pretty phenomenal. But, that just goes to show the difference in pricing now. And then, 2002, this place came up for sale, this Federation Place. And we got it. And as I said, that was purely because it was just such a beautiful old place, and with the, massive big bullnose verandas and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, we got that in 2002. And then I had a mate that lived over the North Coast, a place called Kempsey. But anyway, he was buying a place called Southwest Rocks. Anyway, I'll be honest with you, I just wanted to get into the market. And he said, look, the prices are going crazy over here. They reckon the price is going to keep going. So I bit the bullet, mate, and at the time spent $204,000. And, man, I tell you what, that was a lot of money to me. And I was very nervous doing it, I got to tell you. But, I had blokes telling me, look, the rental market's really strong there. It'll be fine. It'll be, the same old story. It'll pay off the place for you. And I always, I'd always been told, my sister was actually working with a real estate agent. She always told me, just buy the best house in the worst street, just location. That's what I did. Don't get me wrong, it's still a nice place, but there was a lot of nicer places around the back door of the golf course and all that sort of stuff in Southwest Rocks. Yeah, so I bought that in 2002, mate, and you wouldn't believe it. Now, this is what I say about being lucky. It's had this, because, tenants will either make you or break you. It has had the same tenants in it since 2002. Yeah, wow. Same place, and yeah, we still own it now. And, of course, it's been a great place because it's got some capital gain as well as, it's got good rental return as well. So it's been really good like that. The Gulargambone place, amazing rental return. Like I bought it in 2002 for $35,000. $35,000, but it's only worth about $100 now. But $250 a week every day of the week. So for an outlay of, still today you can buy a great place in Gulargambone for $100,000 and rent it for $250, $280 a week.
Just money in your back pocket.
Yeah, so, and it's just, as I said before, getting the tenants. So we did a couple in 2002, and then an opportunity came up to buy a bit more land, a bit more farming land with my father-in-law, Renee's father. And that was simply because he'd been looking after a place from an ex-farmer around Gulargambone that had gone to Sydney. He moved to Sydney, but he kept his 900 acres here. Anyway, and my father-in-law just said, look, he's just one of those guys that didn't like going to the banks, didn't like owing money, and he had enough money for half it. So he just approached me and said, look, do you want to go in, halves with this place with me? And that's, I thought, you beauty. And mainly because, as again, I said I was lucky because he'd looked after it for this bloke for so long, looked after it for him. He gave it to him at a pretty incredible price, $250 an acre in 2005, which was dirt cheap. I actually had the land valuer's office ring me and say, oh, listen, why is this place, so cheap? Because they compare it to places in the area and all that sort of stuff. And so I got lucky there. So that was the third. Yeah, so it's about 900 acres. And then in 2015, we bought a place called Hat Head. But it's different again because I holiday rent it. And that was only because, we wanted somewhere to, for Em and, the family to go in school holidays and all that sort of stuff. So it's holiday rental, but it actually does better because it's a very popular little place, Hat Head. And they've done the freeway up too, right through from, Newcastle right through to Port Macquarie. It's just all freeway now. So it only takes you about 4.5 hours to get from Sydney. So that made a massive difference. And, always people looking to holiday rental. So I think last year about $30,000 a year or something it made just with holiday rental. The only thing is the insurance is a killer because no insurance company want to know you when it's only holiday rented. But holiday rental, mate. And then the last one is just like our family farm, which I was lucky enough to buy my brothers and sisters out, and we have it too, and that's the one I grew up on, and so good to let it stay in the family because it's been my step grandfather. He got it as a soldier settlement block. Soldier settlement block. I don't know if you know how that works, but it's just when they came back from the Second World War, they offered them parcels of land, and he got it, and then my dad bought it in the early 70s from him. He moved to Dubbo. Yeah, so it's been in the family, since the 1950s, and it's just so good to hang on to it. And then we've bought another 300 acres to right next door when that came up. So basically, just trying to buy, just extend it, just for a little bit more land. Just to get a little bit more land, mate, as it goes around.
Yeah, is the purpose of that for the purpose of farming, or is it just more of a?
Yeah, mate, farming. Look, I've got to be honest with you. Everyone around me is full-scale cropping, as in virtually no stock. But mate, I'll be honest with you here, I can't stand tractor driving. It bores me to tears. It absolutely does. I'd rather go and work in a sheep yard all day. People will be listening going, oh, he's crazy, that guy, working with stock all day instead of sitting on a tractor. It bores me to tears from the moment I get on to the moment I get off. I'm just sitting there and thinking, where's some young bloke at school I can throw on this tractor? Because it's just, it's terrible. But as I said, everyone around me, if they've got 1,500 acres there, they're putting, 1,500 acres of cropping in. Because it is, it's beautiful farming country, but I just prefer the stock side of it. The only thing I put in is lucerne for pasture and, things like oats and barley to put in your silos because, as you know, when you've got stock, you have to prepare yourself for drought and, you've got to have hay and grain put away. Otherwise, as we all know, supply and demand, you try and buy it in a drought and it's, this drought, it was, drought was unbelievable. Like, you had little square bales of hay that normally sell for $9 that were selling for $40,
Wow.
So, but as I said, unprecedented the last drought, but thank heavens, we're out of it. Yeah.
So have you got your silos full? How long will that last you?
Oh, mate, well, that's a great question. We always pride ourselves. One thing Dad always told me, he said, look, you've got to keep those silos full every year, Anyway, I can tell you exactly. I had 300 tons of oats in the silos, and I had 567. I can tell you exactly 567 round bales at the start of the drought, and it started in I was talking 17, 18, 19, and at the end I had absolutely no oats left, so not a skerrick. So we fed out 300 tons, and this was with about 700 ewes, and I had 21. And I've still got 21 round bales left. So, but the fortunate thing was, didn't have to buy anything during the drought, which I was pretty proud of because, when I had those 500 odd round bales and 300 tons of oats, there was plenty of blokes saying to me, oh, look, you're going to offload half it. And I said, no, not really. You never know what's around the corner. And it's just a philosophy I reckon you've got to work with. If you've got stock, and you manage to hold on to your stock, you're that far in front because you can't buy a good cow now for under $2,000. What I'm saying is you couldn't go in and try and restock now. You'd never be able to afford it. So, if you can hang on to your stock, you're that far ahead. But look, there were so many people that couldn't do it because, as I said before, this drought was unprecedented. It was never ever in 3 years around here unheard of.
We'll go to another break, Brett. When we come back, I want to ask you about land as an investment in farming because we don't normally touch on it. We'll be back in a moment.
Are low interest rates impacting on your investment returns? It's time to rethink. Rethink Investing creates wealth for clients through the strategic purchase of positively geared, high cash flow commercial property. Industrial properties, retail assets, or office spaces can be a smart investment option that produces significant and long-term return on investment. Rethink your investment options and look to commercial property. Learn more at rethinkinvesting.com.au. Rethink Investing, Australia's #1 commercial buyers agency.
Welcome back, everyone. Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show with Brett Ryan. Now, Brett, so my view, I don't come from an immediate farming background. If I go back a number of generations, we're on the land.
Yeah.
And I think most view of city slickers is that farmers are always doing it tough and the bank's always trying to repossess the land or the family house and generational farming, having to sell it, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about some of those prudent strategies you've had to make sure that you haven't had to borrow money or liquidate assets in order to be able to survive drought. And that's a really smart thing and no doubt the exemplar for how a lot of other farmers look to do stuff. You've talked before about like 900 acres. At a Gulargambone, is that a large parcel of land? Just give me some sense, or a small parcel?
No, not at all. Look, out where we are east of Gulargambone, all those soldier settlers block are around 1,200 acres, okay, which nowadays isn't enough to make a living on. And that's why I said that's why we bought, the extra sort of country. But an average size place out east of Gulargambone is going to be about 2,000 acres, between 1,500 and 2,000 acres. But as you go further towards, Coonamble that way, further north, massive places up there. Like you get to places around Walgett, which is only like 100 kilometres from Coonamble, and we're talking tens of thousands of acres and blokes putting in, 10,000 acres of cropping. So, but around Gulargambone, sure, east of Gulargambone, as I said, it's around that sort of area. West of Gulargambone, okay, where the rainfall drops a bit, when you're getting closer to places like Quambone and that sort of stuff, there's big, old sheep stations, So years ago, the country out west of Gulargambone was classified as grazing country because it didn't get the rainfall that closer to the Warrumbungle Mountains east of Gular did. So you had, farmers out east, as strange as it sounds, graziers out west. But then, of course, came the technology with, moisture-seeking, equipment that goes down basically with points and discs that will go down to where your moisture is. So that, the advancements, in the technology of farming equipment has been incredible. So it's let areas that have never been farmed before be farmed now. As I said, never used to happen. This is going back a lot of years. This is going back in my dad's day, but he'd always used to tell us, graziers out west, farmers out east. And you've got to remember back then, the farmers did incredibly well because in the 50s, wool was bringing what they always talk about. Wool was bringing a pound, which was massive money. All the sheep graziers, they were on cloud nine. There was an incredible amount of money in sheep. And, the poor old farmers, they were, down the rung of the ladder a bit, because, there certainly wasn't the money in farming as there were in sheep. But going back to your question, farms out there, I don't know any farms out that way, out west of Gular, that are probably under 3,000 or 4,000 acres, but
okay.
It definitely varies as you go sort of east of Gular. And towards Gilgandra, same thing, Dubbo, where your rainfall gets higher, Phil, you're always going to get farms that are generally smaller because the country's worth more, basically, according to rainfall.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And sort of, I guess the point I'm making, Brett, is a lot of people will be listening to this podcast who are property investors, and you've spoken about, the place you've got out, Kempswell South. Was it Southwest Rocks?
Southwest Rocks, yeah.
And Hat Head, these other areas. So it's a place in Gulargambone, which are more sort of traditional investments.
Definitely, definitely.
House and land. Well, what do you reckon about people who aren't from the land thinking about investing in land as city slickers? Is it doomed to failure? Most people come home with a bit of a culture shock. There's no use buying land and then just making it available to someone else to use who might be close to it or connected with it. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, just recently there was a place called Wongi out here that was, bought by a Sydney consortium. I don't know exactly how many was in it or whatever, but I know it was run by a local farmer, and by all accounts it did quite well. So there's definitely people that do, from the city that buy and obviously haven't got a clue about farming, but just see it as an investment and put someone on. Obviously, these guys, one of them knew, the local farmer, and his place was very close. So he was, when he was cropping his, we'd duck over and crop theirs and all that sort of stuff. Me personally, look, I like for anyone to have a go, but I'd like to think that you had some sort of knowledge or a little bit of background about it because, look, you can burn some dollars quick smart if you go in, and you don't know what you're doing. It's just not like it used to be. Like Dad used to tell me stories about when the ground was virgin country and it was so fresh, you could throw seed on the ground and grow a 2-ton crop sort of thing. But nowadays, you've got lots of chemicals, lots of fertiliser, you can spend, and that's not even started on the equipment that you need to put it in. So it can be a very, very expensive exercise. So I'm not trying to turn people off, but you'd want some sort of knowledge or at least have someone, very reliable, doing the work for you.
Mm. And what's the future for you, Brett? Are you happy with what you got right now? Are you still investing? You've got some other place you're thinking about?
Yeah, great question, Phil. I was actually, I was, before COVID hit, we were going to make the big brave move into the Sydney market, but just the rentals now are a bit scary. The more agents I talk to, they're sort of talking about, where Emma and Sam are. Around that Leichhardt area, we're talking 2-bedroom places that were bringing $750 that are now bringing $650, so just a bit scary at the moment. Look, I've always considered myself pretty conservative, so we're just putting it on the back burner for a while. My personal opinion, and obviously, look, way more about this than me, but I'm really, really frightened for a lot of people in Sydney that are, once this job seeker, job keeper finishes, because as you know, there's been a hell of people lose their jobs. And look, there's a lot of people with mortgages that were living on the edge before, COVID came. And and as we know, look, I know people that have no life. And this is people that, I know well that, they're both working, paying off, $1 million plus mortgage. Man, if one of them loses their job, and as I said, once the government help stops, boy, oh boy, I don't like to say it, but I just think, look, I hope it doesn't happen, but I just, I don't like it, Phil, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's a real challenge for the nation because
it is. Yeah, absolutely, it is.
The dichotomy of it all, Brett, is that there is literally hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs in regional and rural Australia for people picking fruit, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of these crops are just going to go to waste because we can't get the fruit.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Trees,
it's crazy.
There's jobs out there. People can make money, but they've got to maybe change how they used to do it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you another thing, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but look, I know at least 3 cases in this area where honestly the JobKeeper's too good. People won't go back to work because they're getting more money on JobKeeper or just as much, so they're thinking, hell, I'll stay down. Now, when you've got a situation, now please don't get me wrong, there is genuine cases, and please don't think I'm saying that, but there are cases out there where people are just doing the wrong thing, and like wherever you've got a system where it's discouraging people to go back to work, I'm sorry, something's got to change,
I can agree to you. And speaking about work, I guess you never retire from farming, but how long are you going to teach for? You're going to hang up the
7 years,
gym
mate.
kit at some point.
7 years. I always said I'm 67 drops, so 53 now. I said no, I'm not going to teach beyond 60. I don't want 5-year-old kids beating me in a 100-metre race. All the secondary kids do it now, so I reckon 60 will be 7 years, mate. I'll pull up stumps, and that's going to be interesting because Renee wants to get down there with Emma, and they both love Sydney. I like it for a visit. Let's say that.
Yeah.
But
best of both worlds.
Yeah, mate, I tell you, people. I'll say one thing for you. To your listeners, people that haven't got out and had an experience with the bush, I'm telling you, they will love it. They will absolutely love it. There's great people out here, and it's just a different world. Emma's brought her friends out last year, and we, I took them out the farm, and, we had a look at some sheep and did a bit of shearing, and then we, went water skiing. It's not all, work and no play, and we took them water skiing. They still talk about it, and, one was, from Dave, I can't remember Dave's last name actually, but anyway, he's from your firm, but anyway, he's from England, never experienced anything like that and just went forward, on the 4 wheels and all that sort of stuff. And he, when are we going back? When are we going back? So there's lots.
Oh, it's great. And if you haven't gone out and seen Australia, like I highly encourage. I've been fortunate. I've seen a fair bit of the country and all walks of life. And, what I was looking forward to today, Brett, having a chat with you is that people think property investors are a particular type of people.
No.
Right? No. Like real Australia is get out of the cities, and the real Australians are those outside of the cities as well. And people that live in regional and rural Australia are big property investors as well. It's just not me that live in a city.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And your first one, it's funny, Phil, isn't it? Your first one, you're so, I don't know what you're like, but your first one, you're so worried. As I said, when I borrowed that 204 grand, I had a couple of sleepless nights, it's back then, that was a fair bit of coin. Yeah, big bananas. And now as you do it, when you do a couple, you sort of, you don't, and of course the interest rates are on our side now too, but you don't sort of worry, you just, once you get that good tenant in there and of course you don't want to overcommit yourself, but you don't worry about it anymore. And there's still opportunities out there, no doubt about that,
Yeah, well, Brett, I'm going to make a commitment. I'll come out and see you in Gulargambone, and I'll report live for Smart Property Investment out northwest of Sydney. Have a good look around, mate. But thanks so much for your time today. It's really nice to chat.
No, bloody oath, Phil. Pleasure, mate.
Nice one. Keep at it. Keep teaching. Thanks for the work you're doing there, because it's important. You're critical to these regional towns to get this next generation through and getting them passionate about, particularly woodwork. It's a great thing.
Absolutely, mate. I'm very fortunate, mate. We've got some great kids here, the small schools, like small towns, they're just amazing. And anyone that's ever taught him one will tell you the same thing.
Nice one. Thanks, Brett. We'll chat again soon, no doubt. Thanks for joining us, everyone. As we chat about property investment in regional rural Australia, it's get out there, go and have a look, particularly with lockdown. We're not going to be able to fly internationally for some time. So stay at home, do your holidays, whether it's intrastate or interstate, jump in a car, go for a road trip, go north, south, east or west. You'll enjoy it, no doubt. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. If you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so the first to know what's going on in property right across the nation, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Social media, just Smart Property HQ. You'll find us there. Track it down, have a look. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.
Whether you're an avid property investor or about to buy your first property, why do it alone when you could partner with Australia's best buyer's agent? Director of Pure Property Investment, Property Investment Professionals of Australia board member and REB Buyer's Agent of the Year, Paul Glossop, can take your portfolio to the next level. Get in touch today to discuss your investment goals. Get one-on-one insight from Paul Glossop. And for the first 100 people, this service is completely free. Head to purepropertyinvestment.com today to schedule your consult with Paul Glossop directly.